yourself, guys. Welcome to the show. We're back with another one. What's going on, Lash? How you feeling?
What's going on, man? We got a lot to get to. We're going over the week that was for the week of April 21st through the 27th. It's been an interesting week. A lot to
Yeah,
get to.
there's a lot to get to. The Mets, they went out West Coast and they came back 500. We were on a streak, doing really well after that, and then things fell apart for us. And now we're looking like what Met fans are kind of used to. So we go out there, we're playing the Dodgers, and we know that's where teams go to die. They have that amazing All Star team: Freeman, Otani, Mookie Betts, Will Smith. You know, they're really good and they perform really well. We went out there, we took two, won the series, and we were able to win our fifth series after that one, and we were on a super streak, 6 games in a row, and then the wheels started to fall off. We lost the last game of the series 10-0. Otani showed up and he pretty much destroyed us. And then we went into San Francisco, and after losing that last game in LA, we lost the first two of the series, losing that series, destroying our streak, and winning the last game in the series due to Blake Snell getting scratched due to a abductor strain. And it's showing once again that these pitchers are going down at a dramatic rate. He hasn't had a great start to the season, being that he was a Scott Boras client and he was a late sign for San Francisco. We really didn't know where he was going to go. I believe the Yankees were talking to him. There were a couple of ball clubs that were interested in the lefty National League Cy Young winner. But look, he's down already. 15 days, and we'll see what happens. It's pretty interesting how these pitchers keep going down all over the league, and nobody has answers. The Mets lost that series in San Francisco. Then they came home to play against the St. Louis Cardinals, and the next series is going to be against the Cubs. But we didn't do so well in that St. Louis series either. We ended up losing that series as well. So now we lost two series in a row. We were able to stop the bleeding today, and we went to extras. We had a great outing from Quintana. He went 8 innings, and they weren't really able to get to him. He pitched 8 innings, gave up 3 hits, one earned run, and that one earned run was pretty much St. Louis playing fundamentals. They squeezed a nice little bunt down the third baseline, and the man out there was able to score. At that point in the game, I was like, this game is pretty close, and it might be over. It might be a 1-0 game. But the Mets were able to prevail, come back. Lindor hit a home run and tied up the ball game. We went into extras. We were able to stop them in the top of the ninth with the ghost run on second, and we were able to come back from that. Even though they were able to score in the top of the 11th, we still came back and we were able to tie up the ball game. And with Vientos coming back into the picture after being called up a couple of days ago, he was able to get the walk off. And it was important. It was an important win for us because getting swept like that by the St. Louis Cardinals, who are doing well, believe it or not, even though they're at the bottom of the barrel in the division, that division is pretty tough. Everybody has similar records, and I think that anyone in that division can win it. It's that simple. They're the National League's version of the American League East. Everybody's pretty close, and we won't really know what's going to happen until probably the last week of the season. And we lost Francisco Alvarez this week as well due to a thumb strain. He ended up getting surgery, and I think that hurt the ball club. We ended up calling up Thomas Needle, and you know he has his problems. I don't think he's a great defensive catcher, and he's streaky. But let's give him a chance, and let's see if we can figure it out while we wait for Alvarez to come back. I believe it's going to be like 8 weeks before he's able to even start practicing again. So it hurts. It hurts. It hurts to see your team trying to figure it out and then losing players that are going to get you to that next level and keep you in the competition. It's a big loss for us. What do you think about what I just said, Lasha? You think about, these injuries to these pitchers and this catcher, coming up and doing so well. Last year, half a season, 25 home runs. In my eyes, I said, damn, this guy's going to hit 50 this year. He's electric. He's a great defensive catcher. And he's going to be missed.
Yeah, definitely. I always try to look at the positives first. First of all, you gotta look at the road trip. You guys went 3-3 on the road trip, so that's a positive. You took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers, which is good. The favorite to win the NL pennant this year. I was kind of surprised to see that you guys lost 2 out of 3 San Fran, but that happens. It's part of baseball. But the disappointing news is obviously the loss of Alvarez. I always say that your pitchers go as far as your catcher goes, and having a great catcher is like having a quarterback. He directs how the pitchers go, and he's able to catch all these different pitchers and has control of the game. And when you lose an important defensive catcher like Alvarez, I think it's going to hurt them more on the defensive side than it is on the offensive side. I know he hasn't kind of got hot with the bat yet, but I'm sure he will when he comes back. But thanks be to God, it's not a major injury. I believe it's a UCL, so he shouldn't be out for too long. They say a
Yes,
couple
it's
of weeks.
about 8 weeks. Yeah, it's not a season ending.
Yeah, Tomas Nito. This is why you have Tomas Nitos, because he's a good backup player and someone that I feel comfortable with him playing behind the plate. It'll be interesting to see how he catches the other pitchers. A lot of the pitchers that he's catching, he's never seen them before. I don't think he played a lot last year because Alvarez, for the most part, was pretty healthy. So this is interesting to see how Nito does. But I got faith in the world in him. I've always liked Nito. He's a good backup catcher, and I think they'll be fine. The other news you just brought up earlier was the loss of Blake Snell. It's not surprising. He has said, I said an article, he was saying that one of his opinion, Blake Snell's opinion, one of the causes of pitchers getting hurt is because there's no more sticky stuff. Obviously, as you know, sticky stuff is a substance that the ball players use so they can have good grip on the ball. Now, I don't fully buy that story as far as why that's one of the causes, because the purpose of sticky stuff is so you have grip, so the ball doesn't just go fly all over the place. Now, the reason why pitchers are getting hurt nowadays is because they're trying to throw gas at 100 miles per hour, and your arm can't take that much torque like that all the time. All sticky stuff is going to do is just so the ball doesn't slip out of your hands. That's all it's going to do. It's not going to control velocity. Now, I do believe that because you don't have control of the ball, they're thinking as well, since I don't have control of the ball because I don't have sticky stuff, now I have to throw harder, because the harder you throw, the harder it's going to be for that pitcher, it's going to be harder for the hitter to hit that ball. Because when you have control, you don't have to throw as much gas, because now you can kind of maneuver the ball where you want it. You can put it in the right corner, top right, top left, you name it. you can make the ball dance where it wants to, and that's why players in the '90s and the early 2000s. That's why these pitchers were able to go such long innings, because they weren't velocity pitchers. When I think of velocity pitcher, the person that comes to mind in my youth was Randy Johnson. He's the only pitcher I knew that could throw gas. Now
Overdue.
everyone can throw gas. You name it, they can throw it. 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, college kids are high school kids are already throwing gas now because that's what they preach. Throw, 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 throw. But the problem with that is you're putting a lot of force and a lot of torque on that elbow. People don't realize that. So I don't buy the whole story of the sticky stuff. But I think the other reason why Snell got hurt because he signed late in camp. And yeah, you work out by yourself and you throw bullpen sessions on your own. But that's not the same as in game competitions. Yeah, in spring training games, you're not playing the top tier hitters on the other teams, but you are facing live batters that are not your
Yeah,
team. So
very
they're
important.
doing their power. The teams against you are doing their best to hit against you because they know Blake Snell's a really good pitcher. He's got filthy stuff. They want to try to get to you, and he knows that the hitters that he's going to face are good. And you got players who are hungry, who are trying to make the roster, and they're going to try their best to want to get to him and hit him. So I think the correlation of him coming in late to camp due to the late contract he got with the Giants, and along with throwing so hard. Yes, sticky stuff does play a role, but it's not the main reason why he was hurt. With that being said, one guy that's really impressed me so far, maybe you can elaborate more on your team, has been the former Oriole outfielder, DJ Stewart. Man, he's been great. He's a shining star for the Mets lately, and he's an underrated player. And I know at the beginning of the season, we didn't say, yeah, DJ Stewart, he's going to be great for us. No one thought of that.
I
And it's
mean,
really, as a former Orioles fan, I'm glad to see him do well. He quite didn't catch on with Baltimore. He was all right, but he was more like a bench player, backup guy. But he's taking advantage of the opportunity to start, and he's doing well. What's your thoughts?
yeah, DJ. I remember when he first came up last year with us towards the end of the season, and I tell everyone that with players like that, if they would have been brought up a little earlier during the season last year, I think we would have had a shot at the postseason. We played really well in the second half, but a little too late. And he was electric as well. Really strong bat. He's able to overpower the ball and put it over the fence. And I saw a star unfolding right in front of my eyes, and I said to myself, you know what? This guy can definitely, produce and give us a nice round number like 30 a year, without even trying because he hits the ball so hard. And he's pretty short, so it changes the strike zone for pitchers, and I like him a lot. But then we ended up signing JD Martinez, and Stewart didn't even know if he was going to have a job at the end of spring training, even though JD ended up being signed late as well because of Scott Boras. You know, it's funny how we're putting these players together, right? Stewart had a job, and then you have JD out there waiting to find one, and Snell didn't. Once again, another problem, another Scott Boras problem. But Stewart is definitely, you know, somebody that can become a household name in Queens and those little fans in the Bronx like myself that love the Mets and appreciate those low key guys that can come in and contribute to the club. And I want to see him stick around. He can play the outfield. He can be a really good DH and give Martinez a break from time to time. And I think we need him to succeed. So I think we have a lot of power. We just have to figure out how we're gonna set up the lineup. Because I want to see both of those guys in the lineup. If you have Stewart and you have Martinez and Alonso on a good day, that's serious power. And if you know how to place them in the lineup, you can cause problems for the opposing team. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking You know, we just got JD Martinez. He just came up on Friday, I believe, and he went 2 for 4 with an RBI double, and he came up and he started producing right away. I like it. I like it. But that's what this guy is. This guy is a workhorse. When he got signed, he said, "You know what? I'm not ready to go upstairs yet. Let me give me some time. Let me figure it out." And he ended up getting, I'm not gonna say hurt, but he had back problems while he was training to get back upstairs after the late signing. So it took him a little longer than usual, but he came in and started producing right away. A very good asset for this team. But I want to see Stewart and I want to see Martinez in the same lineup on, I want to say, a daily basis. I think that Stewart is that type of guy that should be playing every day, to be honest with you. But then, we have an influx of outfielders right now. Nemo, you have Stewart, you have Marte, you have Tyrone Taylor, and Tyrone is great too. I think he's another pivotal piece to the puzzle. So we have those type of problems. That's better than not having the talent. You know, it's a better way of looking at things. Having too much, but these guys end up suffering. They end up resenting their team, and they want to play every day. So it's real easy for a player like that to say, you know what, I'm coming up, I'm feeling good, I want to see those at bats, and it's almost like they'll easily say, yeah, I'll move to another team if that team guarantees that I'm gonna be seeing at bats on a daily basis. And how about your secondary team, the Atlanta Braves? You guys ended up getting Ozzy Albies back as if you needed him. You guys are great already, and then you lose a player. You guys are resilient. You guys didn't have a Kuna for a while last year, right? And you guys still were able to perform, make the postseason, and make noise. And a player like Ozzy Albies, I think, is pivotal as well for a good run this season. Even though you guys are the best right now, Atlanta's the best in record and just the way they move. They 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 have a really good core. Even after losing Freeman, Olsen was able to come in and take his place, and nobody's looking back. You guys have a really good ball club.
Yeah, no, definitely it's exciting. I'm glad to see Albies is back, Acuna is back. Like you said, they don't seem to skip a beat with the loss of Freeman in free agency. Matt Olson has been a really surprised to see how well. I thought he wouldn't be able to match Freeman's. Freeman was more. Freeman was great for his offense, but his defense is what made him a stellar first baseman. His defense is amazing. But I'm glad we got Matt Olson. He's doing great. Yeah, so this week they have played Miami and Cleveland. They swept Miami and lost 2 out of 3, I believe, to Cleveland. No, I believe they lost 2 out of 3 to Cleveland. I'm not sure. I know they won today, but anyway, they do well against Miami. Miami's game was interesting because on Wednesday they were down. They were up 3-1 going into the ninth, and I was at the game, and the closer he came in and blew the save, and it tied the game and went to extra innings. And it was a situation where the Marlins had bases loaded, nobody out, and by hook or by crook, they managed to get out of it. Minter came in and shut the door, and the Marlins were not able to score. And then Atlanta came to bat at the bottom of the 10th. Acuna was the runner on base, and Harris got a bloop single, and they won the game. So it was a very impressive game. I wasn't expecting us to have to come back against Miami, but it happens. Closes blow games at times, but it was an exciting game to go to. I had a good time. It was fun. The crowd is always electrical electrifying over there. You know how that is. Those
I
fans
do.
are really. I think they're one of the best fans. I'm not, and not because they're good now, but they're truly loyal. And two things they love here in Atlanta are the Bulldogs and the Braves, and they're an exciting team. This past weekend they just played the Cleveland Indians, who have the best record in the majors. So it's the two best teams in the majors, and it's an exciting series.
Yeah, you
But yeah,
guys.
it's good to have Albies back. I think he brings more help that they need. Your boy on Wednesday, Luis Guillorme actually played second that day for Albies, and he had a good outing. He did pretty well defensively. He didn't do anything offensively, but Guillorme, you're not looking for him for his bat. You're looking for him for more so of his defensive play. He's not a
Yeah,
bad second. He was good with the Mets when he was at third base. He was there until Beatty got up. So
yeah. He
he's
played.
been good. He's a good
He,
signing. I like him.
yeah, he played all over the place. This is why having a guy like that in the clubhouse is really important. Because he's able to pick up the pieces. I was surprised when the Mets let him go. It didn't make any sense to me. This guy is a homegrown. Played his whole career with the Mets, and I definitely miss him. And then seeing him in that Atlanta uniform, it almost bothers me. I read an article the other day about how he was really surprised and hurt by the fact that the Mets didn't pick him up this season. But the Mets are moving forward. They're trying to, go on into the younger side of things, and it's working for them. But to see a guy like Guillaume leave and end up with the Braves, it really bothers me. Now, if he would have ended up with somebody else, not in the division, okay, that works a little better for me. But seeing these guys excel on other teams within the division, that really, really hurts. But what can you do? Baseball is all about, moving forward and trying to stay young. Because you remember, the Mets were one of the oldest teams in the major leagues a couple of years ago. And now it's the complete opposite. So I see that being that they're moving in that direction, they kind of had to let him go, and they weren't, willing to pay. Understandable, I guess. There's a lot of young guys out there that are coming up and making names for themselves. I just was watching the Yankee game the other day, and this guy Mason Miller, you know, he's becoming something important. It's crazy because all these teams that have losing records end up getting first picks, and as these players start coming up, those teams that you know couldn't make it happen a couple of years ago are changing the league, and these teams that never had a shot at the postseason for years are starting to make moves, and it's changing the dynamic of the league and who's in charge now. Because for years, I remember as a kid, Atlanta won the division like what 15 years in a row or something like that. It was something that you already knew was going to happen because they were so good. They had a really good core, and but this Mason Miller guy, right? He goes into Yankee Stadium of all places, and he's able to get the save, and he mows down Volpe, Soto, and Judge to end it, all on fastballs, clocking in at like 102, 103 miles an hour. He's 25 years old, but how long can he survive? You know, shooting at 102, 103 miles per hour. So another perfect example of what's happening around the league. You have to be careful. You have to be careful.
No, definitely you have to be careful. Mason Miller is pretty impressive because he was when he got drafted, they wanted him to be a starter in their rotation, but it just wasn't working out. Instead of just sending him or DFing him and releasing him, they said, let's give him a shot in the bullpen and see how he does. And he's been lights out. And I would not be surprised if he's an all star candidate or representative for the Oakland Athletics in the Midsummer Classic in July. He kind of reminds me of several years ago, Baltimore. They had a young pitcher at the time. His name was Zach Britton. He came up as a starter. He was awful. He just had no command, no control. His issue was that he just couldn't go the distance. And instead of letting Buck Showalter was the manager at the time, he said, "Well, let's put you in a relief situation." And he turned out to be one of the best closers that Baltimore had, and because of that, he became trade bait, and they traded Zach Britton to the Yankees. So, as you know, going back to Oakland, Oakland's probably not going to be a playoff contender. Right now, they're looking good. Season's early, so I'm not going to be like, oh my goodness, they're going to, they're still under 500. But with that being said, if he does well, it depends. He might be trade piece. Maybe you could trade him to get more top tier, second tier. Who knows? Top tier prospect. You might get a level one prospect out of him if he continues to do well. So I think that's what Oakland's hoping for. I like to see surprising stars, people you never heard of, come up and just be lights out in the majors because it's very hard to do. And good for him,
Yeah,
man. I'm glad to see he's doing well, and it's pretty impressive because Oakland took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees, which is really hard to do. The Yankees are one of the best offensive teams, in the American League, one of the best teams in the American League, along with Baltimore, so yeah, Oakland's a tough team. I don't know for now. Oakland's a tough out. They're not a doormat. They're gonna punch you in the mouth. They're gonna come hard at you, and they're not gonna just lay down and just let you step on them. So it's
yeah,
good to
you can
see. I
kind of see
wonder
the
how they
fight.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can see the
definitely.
fight in them. And you know what? I remember a couple of years ago as well when you guys had Cedric Mullins, you had John Means, and you guys weren't really going anywhere, right? And I said to myself, wow, these guys need to move. Perfect example. Remember when what's his face, third baseman, you guys couldn't pay him, and I'm
Manny
not gonna.
Machado.
Yeah, exactly, because that was a little trivia for you. Being that you're a diehard Baltimore Oriole fan, I wasn't gonna give you his name, but I know he's not missed right now, and they went in the right direction. But I thought that the fact that they were unable to pay him, I thought they would get rid of Means and get rid of Mullins as well, and I could really see them in that Mets uniform. But you guys held on, and you were able to build around those guys, and now you're a force. So if I was the A's, I would keep this guy around, because he's 25 years old and he's a piece, to the puzzle. I'm not saying that, yeah, this is the end all, but you start building around players like that, and then when you look, you say, oh, look at us now. Look at us now. We're going for a run. They're building a new stadium in Las Vegas, and soon these guys have a new fan base and a new place to call home. And you start building around that, and you move forward. The next couple of years, they'll be a threat. Nobody's talking about them now, but you can see the little stars here and there. And these guys had a lot of stars. Think about it. They got rid of, who was it? Was it Bassett a couple of years ago, or
Yeah,
Manella,
Bassett. They had Chapman. They had
Olsen?
Olson.
Exactly. You see, it was already happening, but I would have never got rid of Olsen. I would have never got rid of Sean Manella either. I think these guys were the pieces, but I guess they felt like they weren't ready and they didn't want to spend the money because we know how cheap, you know, ownership is over there. But they dismantled something that was, the start of something going in the right direction. You have to keep your pieces. You have to be able to say, all right, I can see the future with those few pieces I have, and it's always good to build around. I remember the Marlins as well. They had all these amazing pieces, and whatever, they won championships along the way, but they didn't have the pitching at the time. But they had a lot of all stars. They had Stanton, they had Yelich, they had D. Gordon, and they dismantled
Real
and every
Muto.
Real Muto. Oh my God, look at that! The names keep coming, and they dismantled all these players that we're talking about.
Jose Fernandez, the pitcher who sadly
Yes,
passed away. He was a superstar.
they all ended up. doing really well after leaving. Stanton has his problems, granted, but he's a postseason threat. You get him to the postseason, and he's going to perform. It's almost like he's bored during the regular season. It's weird, but then he knows when he has to perform. It's almost like a player that is going to free agency right after the season. For some reason, all those guys always have a great season, and they outperform whatever it is that they were doing prior to that. It's like, they know when to turn it on. And it's weird. It almost bothers me in a way because you feel like, why can't you perform like that every day? But then again, I'm not an everyday baseball player. I don't know what my body would go through, playing 162 games. Speaking of that, we're going to be having a special edition episode about whether or not we think that the season is too long. So you guys should definitely stay tuned and look out for that coming shortly in the next couple of days. But yeah, I think that players go out there on a daily basis. They play, but I think they get bored and they don't give us 100% at all times. Can you imagine giving your team 100% at all times and being ready to perform on a super high level every single day after practice, after traveling, after you know, it's hard. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but you get paid big bucks to do this. This is your life. And I think a lot of players, after they get the money and they get those big contracts, they seem to decline. It's kind of like Francisco Lindor. Every time I looked over, I said, man, that guy is amazing when he was playing for the Indians. And I envied them for having an amazing shortstop like that. And then the Mets got him, and he seems to struggle more than usual. And he's the type of player that can make a difference, but for some reason, he's struggled in New York. He gets all that money, and now he struggles. And I think a lot of the reasons why he struggles is because management lets him get away with a lot of things that I don't agree with. For example, why is he batting lefty when he struggles when he does? And it's usually a pop fly or ground out somewhere. Yeah, he has his moments when he catches it and he puts it over the fence. But for the most part, if you look at the numbers, he struggles from the left side. I think he should just come up and hit from his natural position. There's no need to if the numbers don't add up, then you shouldn't be doing it. And I think it hurts the team, especially in like pivotal moments, right? So now you're losing the game. You have men on second and third. You have two outs. You would expect this guy to be clutch, but batting from the left side, I don't see it happening. I always frown on it. I don't see it. And then they say, oh, give him some time. How much time do you need? You've been doing this for a long time. You practice over the winter. You're taking many at bats. It's not like, season's over, he goes home and he sits on his couch. It's a constant struggle and a constant, battle to keep yourself hot. You just can't say, oh, it's February, let me start swinging at some balls. No, this is something that you work on during the off season. So I don't accept that excuse when somebody says, "Oh, okay, yeah, you know what, he's gonna get better at it. Just give him some time as the season goes along." No, this is something that you work on a daily basis, and I think that he shouldn't be swinging from the left side at all. I think he'll be a lot more productive if he stayed on the right side, especially in pivotal moments. But who am I to say that? I'm not managing the team. It's just something that the guys upstairs have to look at and say, you know what, Francisco, you're done on the left side. We pay you, you work for us. If you ever, leave us, then you can have that conversation with those guys on the other side. But while you're here, we want you to stay on the right side. I don't know. That's just my opinion on Francisco Lindor. You have to like, when you're looking from the outside in and you're looking at this team that you love so much and you're trying to figure out what's wrong with the team, you have to look at the little things, and little things like that make a difference. All right. Let's say he's a natural righty, so why not bat from the right side instead of having a 1 for 3 day? Maybe you can change that, a 2 for 3 day, or maybe a 3 for 3 day, because you're more comfortable batting from that right side. Another person having trouble right now, Aaron Judge with the Yankees. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, Aaron Judge has definitely been struggling so far this year. He's batting 211 with 6 home runs and only 18 RBIs. I thought the addition of Soto would help him because the pitcher that he's going to face is going to have to decide, do I pitch to Judge, do I pitch to Soto, or do I walk both, or vice versa? And if you decide to pitch to Judge, there's a very good chance he's going to get hold of a ball and he's going to just shoot it out. I don't know why he's struggling. I don't know if it's the pressure of having Soto in front of him. I don't know what it is, but for some reason he's been struggling. But I'm not going to worry about it. It's not even a month into the season, and so I'm not going to worry about it. Players tend to start out slow, and baseball's a slow cooking sport. In New York, it's still kind of cold. The ball, the weather is not hot. The ball travels better when it's warm and humid out there, especially in New York. They have a short porch, so I know some Yankee fans. They want to hit the panic button. Oh my goodness, our guy's not doing well. What happened? They start yelling, "Oh, bench him. He's horrible. Why did they give him all that money?" No,
Yeah,
no, don't do that. Judge is
the
not that type of guy.
but the
I
fan
think,
base, the
yeah,
boos, and that hurts a player. You come home, you're struggling, and you strike out, and they want to boo you. They want to let you know that you're underperforming. And I think he's struggling as well because Soto comes in and he's just a fix-all, right? He's like electric. He's scary. He's he's that guy that can carry the team on his back. He's that type of player. He has that energy about him. And you know, Judge was like the guy that everybody looked up to, and the guy that fixed your problems. And now you have Soto coming in and kind of like taking your thunder. So I can see how something like that can affect a player. You know, it's interesting. We'll see if he figures it out. Maybe he won't. But when you're playing under somebody else's shadow, especially a player like Soto, because at the after the signing, after the trade, right? They were like, oh my God, now we have Judge, we have Soto, and if Giancarlo can figure it out, then it's over. And I believe that. I think it's true. It's dangerous if you have all those guys clicking at the same time. Teams going into the Bronx are gonna suffer. They're gonna get destroyed. Can you imagine those guys hitting bombs left and right? It's crazy. It's crazy. They know what they have on paper, but it just doesn't seem to be translating over to the field.
yeah, no, the Yankees have, I would say, four power hitters: Judge, Stanton when he's healthy and he shows up, Soto, and everyone forgets Anthony Rizzo. He's a power hitter too, and when all those guys get clicking,
Oh
like you
my
said,
God!
it's gonna be hard to stop him. But oh, thank goodness that Judge is slumping at the plate has not hurt them because they've had these other guys who have stepped up. The Labor Tours of the world, the Rizzos.
Yeah,
Stan, believe it or not, he's been having a pretty good year. Here's one of the reasons why they're winning games. He's actually showing up this regular season so far. So Stan has kind of the two players that we thought would do the opposite of each other are exactly doing the opposite. We thought Judge would do well and Stan would do awful. It's the other way around. Stan's doing well and Judge is kind of mingling around, but
Yeah, the
I'm not
pressure.
gonna worry about it. It's a
Yeah,
month. It's still cold. I wouldn't worry about the Yankees. So I think the Yankees are just fine. Judge is great. I love him as a. I hate the Yankees, but
yeah,
man, he's fun to watch.
he is, and he's classy. You have to understand that Judge is classy. You know, listen, I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't mind having Soto on my team, and I would be upset if the Mets didn't try after the season is over. He is a free agent, and having somebody like that in your clubhouse is gonna change the dynamic of your team. This is a given. And all right, I think he really, really likes being a Yankee. He knows what being a Yankee means. He 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 performs. He's not scared to perform. He doesn't skip a beat. He's that type of player that no matter where he lands, he's gonna perform. He has that Mookie Betts energy. He's electric. He is. He changes everything, and we have to give it a shot. I think he's finally found a home, and depending on whether the Yankees can afford him is the question for later. But we all know that the Yankees they're gonna try their best to keep him around for the next couple of years. I'm gonna say that this guy's looking for the most craziest contract. He's probably gonna try to break records. He's up there with Otani, and he's the type of player that brings fans to the game. It isn't like Yankee Stadium isn't sold out on a daily basis. It's not. That's the case. No matter what happens, a team could be down in the slumps, and they're always going to fill up the stadium because Yankee Stadium is where it's at for some odd reason. I don't know. I personally don't like the stadium. I really don't care about the Yankees. I grew up in the Bronx. There's something about the Yankees. They have this aura about them, and I hate the fans, but they're moving in the right direction. They want to get back to the postseason. They want to compete, and they want to be relevant. And I think with the addition of Juan Soto this year, they're moving in the right direction. And like you said, if everybody starts clicking, oh man, God bless us all. God bless us all. Let's talk about your man Jackson Holiday. What happened?
Yeah, man, Jackson Holiday. I think he got the either he's got scared or I don't know what's going on, or they rushed him, but he's struggling mightily
Yeah, they sent him
with
back down.
his first time up. He only had one hit in 16 at bats. That's not good. So they did the right thing. They try to be as patient as you can, but thank goodness early in the season they can play around with him. He's not the reason why they're losing.
No, no,
They're
no,
not losing games in spite of his struggles, is what I mean. So
no.
they're fine. I'm okay with it. Send him back down. They did that last year with Grayson Rodriguez, who's a starter in the rotation, and he struggled. And they said, "Well, you gotta go back to the minors." He figured it out, and he came back, and he's been they're probably their second best pitcher so far this year. So I have no doubts. I'm not gonna worry about it. I
And
do kind of think there was a little rushed. It's easy to say now. At the time, I was like, "Oh, this is cool." They brought him up, because I know when we talked earlier, we said, "Oh, I wish they had brought him up at the beginning of the season." But the Orioles knew something that we didn't know, and there's a reason why he's back in the minors. So the Orioles are now that they're finally have new ownership. They're run by Mike Elias, the general manager, and so it's finally run by a good front office staff who knows what they're doing, and it's not a bunch of crazy people who have no clue what's going on like the previous regime. So I'm very confident. I'm not worried about it. But it's what it is. It's gonna happen. You're 19 years old, man. It's a
yeah,
lot of pressure
yeah, it's a
to
lot of pressure.
come up.
He's surrounded by a lot of stars too, and first 10 games with Baltimore, he went 2 for 34. Average was .059. He struggled. It was pretty bad, and I think that him going back downstairs and being able to play on a daily basis and trying to figure out his mechanics, like players like that that do well in the minors, they're not worried about. They have it figured out. They know who they are, right? And then they come up to the majors, and there's a lot of different things that change overnight. You go from playing for 100 people in the stands at that to going into a stadium that holds 30,000 people on any given night, and that and the elite pitching, being surrounded by all stars, and seeing how they perform on a daily basis, that can definitely get to you mentally. And I think that sending him down to recalibrate is gonna be good for him. It's embarrassing. I know it's hard. It's hard. I mean, but like you said, he's a baby. He's a kid. But let's see what happens when he comes back up. Because I'm pretty sure before the season is over, we'll be seeing Mr. Holiday show up again, and it might be different the second time around.
Yeah, who
So
knows? It'll be interesting, but I'm not worried about it. Baltimore's just fine.
yeah, they're
They're
just
gonna win
fine.
games without him. They'll win games with him. So, like I said, there's no rush to either, and there's also no need to have him up here right away. They got other players. You got Jorge Mateo, you got Gunnar Henderson, you got Ramon Urias at third. So they have plethora of
Talent.
a plethora of replacements to hold his place until he gets back. So, but anyway, with that being said, for the first time since 2019, the MLB is bringing back Players Weekend in August. It's basically a 3-day weekend where players will be allowed to wear, instead of having their names on the back of the jersey, they can have their nicknames on the back or whatever they want on the back. For example, a nickname, a guy that comes to my mind is Bartolo Colon. Imagine if this was around when he was playing. Oh man, having the big sexy on the back of his jersey. Oh, that'd been amazing.
That's pretty
Fans would have
cool.
been going crazy.
Of
So
course.
I I'm I don't. I'm not a fan of it. I think it's silly, but I understand what the baseball's trying to do. They're trying to grow the game. They're trying to gear towards appealing, make it more appealing to the younger fans. Baseball is not the number one sport like it used to be back in the day. Football rules American sports. It's just the way it is. So they're trying to get new fans, and they're trying to gear towards what kids like. Kids like to be flashy. They like taste. Kids like that self-centered attention. Look, me, and it's kind of like that's what they're kind of doing with this. But I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. I think it doesn't. It's not gonna make a difference in my opinion. But hey, it's Major League doing what they gotta do. Players like it, I guess. I don't know.
I think it's cool. It doesn't bother me. It's not like you said. It's not gonna change anything dramatically, but it gives the players a chance to relax and be in a environment where they can have a lot of fun with it. Going back to these problems this year that we've had with these umps, right? The Baltimore Orioles, you guys were playing in Anaheim the other day, and there was a pivotal moment in that game where the batter in the ninth, I believe, gets called out at second when he was blatantly safe. And they replayed it, and it was obvious he was, but the umps for some reason called it the wrong way. There's been a lot of problems with the umps this year. It's crazy to me. It's happening. It's just not Mr. Angel Hernandez. It feels like he's, a cancer, and it's kind of like, rubbing off on the other guys as well. It's weird. It's weird. It's like it's making me want, AI to take over the game at this point. It's crazy. And I'm old school. And for me to say, yeah, you know what? Let's get rid of these guys altogether, and let's just have the AI call it. Because, you know, pivotal moments like this, they bother me because if he's blatantly safe, it can change the game. Anaheim ended up losing the game, and I'm gonna say that was part of the reason. All right, they came back late, but you know what? You have 27 outs. When you get robbed of one, especially in a pivotal moment like that, it really, really bothers me. I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, definitely. So what it was the last game of the series. Baltimore had 2 outs. The guy got on base and he attempted a steal, and the umpires called him out. They challenged it, and they stuck with the rule. I would thought that with replay, it would make the umpiring a lot better because now you have a third party looking at it from above back in New Jersey. Um, I thought it would fix the problem, but it seems to have made the problem even worse because it just now with the instant replay, everything takes forever. It's slow, 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 slow. Takes forever, and so you don't get the results right away. And as an Orioles fan, I definitely thought it was out. I mean, I thought he was safe by a mile. I don't know what happened, but Baltimore caught a break. Sometimes that's the plus about when you're a good team and when you're a team like the Angels, who's kind of on a rebuild. They just lost Otani. Things are not going to necessarily go the way you want it to, and I think that was the case. So Baltimore lucked away by winning that game. They ended up winning that series, but he definitely was out by my. He was definitely safe, no doubt
Safe.
about it. But
Yeah.
I don't know what the umpires see. I don't know what the people in New Jersey saw, but they thought that he was out. But it's what it is. But with Baltimore, speaking of Baltimore, they just lost the outfielder Austin Hayes. He got hurt recently. They put him on the 10-day IL with a muscle strain to his left calf. They ended up calling up catcher David Barnolas and um, designated outfielder Peyton Burdock for assignment. And also they end up calling another one of their top tier prospects, who's outfielder. His name is Heston Kjerstad. He's from University of Arkansas. He was drafted a couple years ago. He hasn't played so far. In the time that Kjerstad has played, he hasn't really done anything surprising. It's more like DH, more like pinch hitting situations and things like that. But I think Austin Hayes, he was struggling, man. I think this came at the right time. He was batting like 111 in 19 games, and it just wasn't good. So I don't know if the injury is the reason why he was struggling, and maybe he just didn't tell him that, hey, I had this injury, or it just something just finally came up at the moment, or he felt this pain and he was just trying to do his best to hold on as long as he could, and he just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, a lot of players, yeah, they play hurt because they don't want to lose their status on the team. And I feel like that kind of hurts the game. The one thing I liked about Matt Scherzer, he was very vocal about his injuries. And when he felt he couldn't perform, he would knock himself right out. He would actually tell management, you know what? I can't do it. Find somebody else, but I need to babysit this arm right now. And I like players like that. I've always said that. I always said that if you can't perform to the fullest of your ability, then tap out. You know, if it was meant to be, you'll be back. You know, but injuries like that and always change things for the team because now you're bringing up somebody that you didn't know had talent. This is how a lot of teams find talent. You know, it's funny because sometimes you have to bring players up that you feel like they weren't ready or you didn't have space for them, and then with these, you know, absences from like major stars, you bring up this young talent, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is what we needed this whole time, you know, and that helps the ball club and it helps the the team upstairs as well because you know how much you have to pay a Scherzer compared to like random nobody that nobody really knows about because we're not watching minor league baseball like we should because that's where all the talent is. You know, I know you like to watch a lot of college football and you're really in tune with what's going on with these players prior to them coming to the NFL and stuff like that because you like to watch it. I don't really care for that, and this year is different for me. You know, because I I stick to my team and I stay in that box and I learn about players when they confront my team. I'm not looking outside the box, but this year, with this podcast and all, I've been looking at baseball from a different perspective and it's changed the way I feel about the game, and for the better, of course. And it's different. It's really different. I feel like I'm more in tune with what's going on in the sport. It's fun. It's fun.
No, it's definitely fun. It forces us to really focus in on what's going on and look for stories that we wouldn't be looking for because we just care about who's winning and losing and whether our team is doing well. But now, we want to make this podcast where it's not just about our teams; it's about what's going on in the majors overall. Interesting stories or topics that come to mind that we want to talk about on the show. Speaking of news, the Texas Rangers recently signed Johnny Cueto. As you know, Johnny Cueto as a starter. I believe he came up with the Reds, I think, and
I believe so. If I
the
remember, if
Reds. And he pitched for the White Sox, I think, last year. And it was the Giants he pitched for. He had a really good year with the Giants one year. And they sent him to a minor league deal. Obviously, the Rangers are still waiting on DeGrom to come back and Scherzer and Verlander. Actually, I think right, all three are still not pitching for the
no,
Rangers.
Verlander is he went back
I'm
to
not
Houston.
Verlander. I meant DeGrom. They're waiting for DeGrom to come back
They're waiting for the ground to
and
come back.
Scherzer. Yeah.
And Scherzer.
So that's probably the reason why they signed him. So it'll be interesting. It's a small. It's a good under the radar signing because they don't have to give him a lot of money. If he does great, great. If he doesn't, they could just release him and he can move around and go where he gotta do. He kind of reminds me of Julio Teheran. He came in with the
Yes,
Orioles this offseason, then they let him go. Then he went to the Mets. They let him go. And then the Mets let him go, and he's all over the place. So
but at least he tried, and they gave him an opportunity to try. I think Cueto is a good look for Texas. Like imagine if Cueto works out, and then you get the Grom back, and then you get Scherzer back. Oh man, you have a problem. You have a problem. But we'll see what happens. Good luck to Mr. Cueto, and I hope it works out for you. I mean, you have a lot of experience, you have a lot of years under your belt, and he can be an asset to a team. And for low cost, can't it doesn't hurt to try.
yeah, 1 point. So the incentive can go up to $1.6 million, but he's got to meet certain criterias and pitch a certain percentage of the games, I think, and whatever they have in this contract, if for him to make that much money. So for 1.6 million, you take a flyer, see what happens. I think it's a good under radar signing. Texas does need pitching. Like I said, it's going to be who knows when DeGrom's going to come back. Who knows when Max Scherzer is going to come back. They lost Montgomery in the offseason, so they have to kind of scramble around and try to get starting, um, pitching. But anyway, with that being said, one thing we like to do on the show is we like to point out the best pitcher of the week and the best hitter. So, who's our gunslinger of the week this week?
The gunslinger of the week, going back to Atlanta, Max Fried, 9 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 6 Ks, no walks, beating the Marlins 5-0. The Marlins, yes, but Max Fried is a force. All right, so it shows you that uh, elite pitcher is supposed to dominate teams like the Marlins. All right, let's say it was another team, he would have went out there and gave you the performance of his life. It doesn't matter what team he's pitching against. He's that guy. He's the guy that's gonna stop the bleeding if he needs to. He's the guy that's gonna give you 100% when he's on the mound. But when you play a team like the Marlins, you're supposed to go in there and at least take 2 out of 3. It's baseball. I'm not saying that, you know, a team that's struggling like the Marlins can't win a game, but I'm saying that when you're playing teams that are struggling during the season, you're supposed to take advantage. And pitcher of the week, Max Fried, he showed us, that he's that guy. He is. After losing Spencer Strider, you still have Fried there, showing you what he's capable of doing. And those numbers are ridiculous to me. You're going through a lot of players in that 9 innings, right? And he's able to perform at that level Three hits? Come on, let's be serious. That's insane to me. All right.
Yeah, no, it's definitely is. At only only 3 out of 27 hitters, three only 3 times those players got on base. There's 27 outs in the game, so it's pretty impressive.
It is.
Um, I, I I wish I had gone to that game instead of the one the next day, but it's what it is. But
It's
and
crazy you
then
say that.
yeah, it's
You know
funny.
why? I'm gonna tell you why I say it's crazy. I think it's crazy because a lot of people go to ball games, right? And they feel like if a pitcher goes up there and he's dominating like that, the game is boring. I think it's the complete opposite. I think it's fascinating to me to watch a pitcher go up there inning after inning and perform at that level. It's hard to be able to pull that off. You know, you say, all right, he's pitching against the Miami Marlins. They're trash. He's supposed to do that. No, that's not how it works. You have to be able to manage your way through all those innings and all those batters over and over again, and you have to reinvent yourself every time the lineup turns over because these guys already saw you a couple of times. Imagine the third time around. It's even harder because you have to reinvent yourself every time you see that batter again because they're adjusting to what you're throwing. This is why they say that after 4 innings, a pitcher needs to go and sit down and they need to bring the bullpen in because the percentages go up for the batter to succeed against a pitcher after the fourth inning. And I say that's BS because Max Fried just proved to us that it's possible to go out there and have a really strong outing.
Yeah, no, he had a great outing. Everyone says, "Oh, it's just the Marlins," but guess what? Every one of those players are major league players. They are the top of the best, top of the tier athletes on those teams. And they're not playing a single A team. They're not playing a high school team. So to do that against a team like Miami, yes, they're rebuilding, I guess. But Miami has some decent players. They got Jazz Chisholm Jr. They got Tim Anderson. They got things like that. So they're not a complete they're not a hogwash team. But either way, it was a great performance, and I'm not surprised it's Max Reed. He's phenomenal. But
Yeah, he
losing
sure
Strider
is.
was a bummer, but it's what it is. But hey, it's the game of baseball. So good for him. I'm glad he did well.
He's not skipping a beat. That team isn't skipping a beat. That team is ready. And player of the week, who do our honors go to?
So this week's slugger of the week would be another NL East rival of the Mets, Philadelphia's shortstop Trey Turner. He was hitting 462 with 10 runs scored and 4 RBIs. That's a pretty impressive week, considering that in that week he probably only played 4 to 5 games in a 7-day span. To do that, he just was smashing the ball everywhere. And
Yeah,
that's another great Philadelphia, man. They always strike gold with all these signings, man. Guys who you think are going to be done. Trey Turner came from the Dodgers. They let him go. So you're thinking, he's probably near the back end of his career. He's not as good. Nope. Philadelphia said, we'll take him. And he's just been shining great for them. So good for
he's
him.
always
Good for the
yeah.
Phillies. So it sucks as a Braves fan and a Mets fan to see that happening. But hey, it's what it is. He's not like he's not your power home run hitter. He's a gap to gap type of hitter. He plays small ball.
And
He's
he's
going to find
fast
a
as hell.
hole, and he's fast. He can steal, and he plays good defense. So you can't forget that.
Yeah, he's top tier in my eyes. I'm sorry, but he's definitely top tiers in my eyes. Top tier. Salute. Now, every week we try to stump Lasha with a trivia question. And this is going to be a good one. I like this question. And let's see if you can pull this off. So, how many three strikeout games did Tony Gwynn have in his 20-year career? All right. So, he played with San Diego from 82 to 2001. They called him Mr. Padre. He was a contact hitter that knew how to manage the ball and put it into play and put it in the gaps. And he had a batting average of career batting average of 338, accumulated over 3,000 hits, 135 home runs. You have to understand this guy wasn't a home run hitter. He just knew where to put the ball in that at bat. He was that guy. He didn't try to swing hard. He just put the ball into play, and he succeeded over and over again. Over 1,100 RBIs in his career. 15-time All-Star, 5 Gold Gloves, 7 times he was the Silver Slugger, right? 8-time National League batting champion. That's crazy. All right. So how many times do you think this guy struck out? 3 times in a game over the 20-year span.
In a 20-year span, how many times
Times
did he have
that
a
he
three strikeout
struck out game.
game?
Mm-hmm.
Oof, that's very hard to do. Nowadays, back then it was harder because pitchers didn't throw as hard as they do now. When players, the strikeout rate is a lot higher now
Higher.
than it is then. So back then, in a 20-year span, I'd say maybe 60 times he struck out. He had three strikeout games. I don't know.
Wow. 60 times. You're so off. Let me explain to you how many times he
How
struck
many
out
did he
three
have?
times in a game over 20 years. One time, bro.
Wow, one time. That's impressive. Jeez.
Yeah,
I
I
just was
know it.
thinking because 60, because it's such 20 years is a long time. A lot of things happen, and
Hmm.
it's possible for that to happen. So I wasn't trying to be funny with the number,
No,
but
no, no, no.
20 years is a long time. Think about
Yeah,
if you do 20 years, you do 162 games times 20. That's a lot of games. You know what I mean? To do only
yeah.
one time. He's amazing, man. Rest in peace, man. He
Peace.
was
The
he
rest in
was
peace.
he was the type of guy. He earned every hit he got. He did not miss a. There was not a ball that didn't pass him. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? He saw it, he took it, and he was a big guy, so he had power.
he did, but
And
he never really used it. He never really
no, he
used that
never used
power.
it, but he was good at. He was a gap to gap guy, and
Yes,
he that when small ball was what was needed in order to win games back then.
he was the
He
guy you wanted
came
on your
through. He
team.
was clutch.
Yeah, he was the guy you wanted on your team. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I see McNeil in that same light. 2 years ago he won the batting championship, right? And McNeil's the type of guy that slaps the ball around. Kind of like what Tony Gwynn did. He doesn't really hit for power. He doesn't really try to kill the ball during his at bats. He's the type of player that slaps the ball where he needs to get the runner on base alone. And I love players like that because there's so many different ways to approach an at bat, and those players need to be saluted, because these are the type of players that can get you runs on the board. All right, when he sees the opportunity and it's there, he's like, all right, where does this ball need to go for me to succeed and for this team to score? Because that's your job. That's your job. So he's not. I'm gonna go up there and crush this ball and make this a 3-0 game. No, he's not. It's not about that. It's about small ball. And it's funny because this series, I was there for the whole series against the St. Louis Cardinals, and that's exactly what they were doing. They play really well. They use fundamentals. You know how many bloop hits these guys got over the course of 3 days at City Field? It was just like, oh, you're throwing a 100-mile-per-hour ball. I'm gonna slap that ball right into the gap. Big guys. This team has a lot of big guys, right? So you see the outfield pushing back, and they're playing really deep, and these guys are just slapping the ball into the gaps, and it annoyed me because it seemed like the Mets couldn't adjust to it. And this is how you win games. This is the true way, using all the fundamentals and putting runs on the board. St. Louis Cardinals are a weird team though. Like they score early and then for some reason they fade. And I saw a record. They were overproduced in the late innings by like I think over 40 runs. So like in the late innings, they don't score. So they'll get you nice and early, and then they play. You know defensively and they stop you. But they score early, and after that, they just fade out. So you have multiple opportunities late in the game to overcome that deficit. But they're a really good ball club. I like them. You know, people forget about the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals, they play really good ball. I'm impressed. You know, yeah, we lost 2 out of 3, but I was watching and I'm like, wow, these guys are doing the little things and they're doing the little things right, and that's what's important. But we're coming to the end of the show. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one. In the next couple of days, we'll be having a special episode and talking about whether or not 162 games is too much. Have a good night.